What is up, guys? Welcome back to the NowView YouTube channel. Today I've got a special video for you. It is a collaboration video with the one and only Feli from Germany. This is a two-part collaboration, so the other part is on her channel. Make sure you go check that out. In her video, we talk about the difference of freedom between the United States and Germany. Pretty interesting topic. But in this video, we talk about the controversial German school system and a little bit of the American college and high school system as well. Pretty interesting. But before the video starts, I do have to promote my documentary, Unicorn Town, that I have been working on for 6 years. It is finally coming out on August 19th. You guys have probably heard by now because I won't shut up about it. The pre-orders are open now. And like I said in the previous video, we have a very good chance at trending and being promoted and featured in the Apple and iTunes store if we get a good amount of pre-orders. So thank you so much to everyone who has pre-ordered it already. It actually looks like we are doing well, and we are in the top pre-orders category as of this morning. So it's quite amazing and exciting. So for anyone who hasn't pre-ordered it yet, please consider doing so. It would help me out quite a bit. And for those of you who don't use Apple or iTunes, on August 19th is the real release date, where it will come out on Amazon and Google Play and YouTube Movies or regular video on demand, wherever you purchase or rent movies. Now, that is still just for the United States. European viewers, please stand by waiting on info. But if you are clever, you could probably just use a VPN and order it on Amazon starting August 19th. So don't be afraid to do that if you're so interested. All right, guys, enough of me rambling. Thank you all so much for the support on that so far. Really excited for you guys to see it. And without further ado, the video with Feli from Germany.
Yep, absolutely. Actually, one thing you just said right there that's so interesting is I was just having a conversation with both Germans and Americans. Americans talking about, did you often, growing up in school, did you bring your lunch to school or did you get the hot lunch served at school? And then talking to Germans, like, we didn't really have lunch at school. I think I was explaining to my brother or cousin that, very often German school will end in the middle of the day. So this whole tradition that's pretty big in American school system, having lunch at school and the whole lunch culture, doesn't really exist so much with Germans.
For me, it was a little bit different because in Bavaria, this is a whole big topic. I actually have a video about the education system on my channel, but we changed from the G9 to the G8. So like our school, traditionally the highest school, the gymnasium, used to be until 13th grade. Yep. And then in most of Germany, or I think all of Germany, it's state-wise. The education system is state-wise in Germany, so it gets really confusing. So there's basically 16 different education systems in a small country like Germany, or comparably small? No,
nice, yeah. Comparably. I think that's the proper word. Feli's English is better than mine, so let's go with whatever she says.
And in Bavaria, at least, I was the second year where it was G8, G8, where like we ended after 12th grade. And suddenly, starting in 5th grade, we did have long school days until like 3:30 p.m. That was long. And we would have a lunch break, but since that was completely new to the German school system, it took them like a few years to even build a cafeteria in our school after my long days started. And even then, people didn't really, I guess, use that a lot because people were just so used to bringing their own lunch. Plus, German students are allowed to leave school property during breaks. So like we would always just go to the supermarket right next to the school, or like to a Döner place, or like some kind of, little fast food place, and people would just go and buy something.
Yeah, what you just said right there, that you guys would leave the campus oftentimes, this is such a thing that's different in Germany. Like, I remember when I was in high school, age 14 to 18 in the States, and it was such a privilege for the seniors to be able to get the reward of having off-campus lunch. But because it's like, I don't know, the youth in Germany are so much more self-sufficient and going off on their own. And even today I was talking to one of our physios, and she was talking about when her kids get home from school, and then they're home for a couple minutes, and they go run off and ride the bike or take their bus to their friend's house, and they're 4 years old. And it's just it's so much different.
That's actually a question or a topic suggestion that I got from someone, was like childhood differences. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about that too, unless you wanted to say something else about the lunch topic or the cafeterias.
No, I think I got all the information I needed about the lunch and the bread. I did actually want to ask you a little bit about your opinion on the German education system, the German school system with the 3 tracks. I mean, that's just, I made a tiny video about that years ago, but it's still something that I think is pretty interesting, and isn't it a little bit controversial?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that it's the best solution at all. The German school system is very old, if you will. Like when it was established, it was a whole different society, and it's just really, really difficult to reform it. Is that the word you use in English too? Because as I said, we have like a different system in every state, and the bureaucracy is just awful. And even them changing, like reducing 1 year was like such a major thing. And then guess what? They changed it back to 13 years a few years ago, which was a whole other thing. And it was like, it was just very chaotic. Like, at least for me, I was the second year of the shorter gymnasium, as I said. You know, they didn't have anything figured out. It was way too much curriculum for like not enough time, and like the books were not ready in some subjects. Like they were still working on the textbooks for the new curriculum and stuff, and like we didn't even have them yet. It was like a whole thing. But basically, I personally don't think that it's good or ideal for a lot of kids to be separated into different tracks at the age of 10. Especially in elementary school, I think I was lucky, but I think a lot of your performance really depends on your household and your parents and how much support you get from home. And if you're from a household where maybe your parents don't speak the language very well, or they're just not home, or, you know, it's a single parent household where your parent is maybe working 2 jobs and they just can't support you in that way, I think you're at a very big disadvantage, and I don't think that's necessarily linked to your intelligence or actual performance that you would be able to give. I think it's really more related to those privileges that a lot of us have. Like I had that privilege. I performed very well in elementary school, and then I got to go to gymnasium, but a lot of other people then are told that they have to go to Realschule, which is like the middle track that ends after 10th grade, and then other people are told to go to Hauptschule, which is the lowest track. Well, lowest, it's like it's hard to say it with that too, because even putting that what's the word I'm looking for?
Stigma?
Stigma, like worth or value, I guess, or rank. To that, I don't think is a good thing to do. The lowest school, the Hauptschule, ends after 9th grade, and traditionally people then go into a trade after that. But you know, society has changed so much, and the system makes it a little bit hard for people to change tracks. Whereas I think in the US, I do think that in general, if you go to a German gymnasium, you get a better education than if you go to all the AP classes in most public, at least high schools in the US. But at least it's much, much easier to like switch tracks or to go to AP classes, which are like the more advanced classes in the US in some subjects, and then don't do that in other subjects. Whereas in gymnasium, you're going to be at that high level in all the subjects, even if they're not really your thing. So am I the biggest fan of that system? No.
I always thought, and that was the thing, that I was very shocked when I heard this is the system in Germany. And I thought, my initial thought was like, oh, this is kind of ruthless, a little bit cutthroat, like separating kids at such a young age. And just like you said, there could be so many different factors, and it's like maybe you're a late developer as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
But is there a possibility, or isn't it like there is a possibility to change tracks, but it's super complex and full of the lovely German bureaucracy to do?
It is possible, yeah, but like it really depends on your school, your state. Like some schools start a second language in 6th grade, and then it's a different language in different schools. So like some people start with like Latin in 6th grade, other people have like French in 6th grade, and then that is a big difference when you switch schools. Is that you're gonna have to basically catch up on like 1 or 2 whole years on like one subject. So that can be very difficult. And yeah, just in general, switching like from a lower track to a higher track, you're going to have to catch up in other subjects as well, or repeat a grade. So they don't make it easy, but of course it is possible, and it's also possible after the middle track, Realschule, to go to a Fachoberschule, for example, which still allows you to get that high degree, the Abitur, after you graduate from that first school. So it's very complicated. Like there's a lot of ways actually. You can even do it while doing an apprenticeship. You can get a higher degree. There's a whole lot of ways, of course, which is good, but it's still not that easy that like if in 6th grade you're suddenly performing really well that you can just easily without any effort move up. You really have to want it and put the work into it to then catch up with everything.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's one of the things that I think Americans are pretty shocked about when they hear about that this is the school system here in Germany. And I think, just like you said, there's definitely a lot of drawbacks to it. Let me know what you think of this statement. I think I agree with you that it's like maybe it's time to renovate the German school system. In my opinion, I feel like there is a positive thing maybe that comes from it is there is a encouragement for people to go into certain trades, like really important trades for society, you know, whether it's a carpenter or electrician or what have you, that come off different tracks that aren't the gymnasium track. Whereas in the States, I feel like everyone is told that the only way to be successful and to lead a good life is to go to college, go to university. And now I feel like this has led to a huge oversaturation in people going to colleges. Undergrad college degrees are sort of everyone has them, or a lot of people have them. And I feel like there's less of this value placed in American society on some of these important trades. Whereas in Germany, they seem to have a higher value. What do you think about that?
I agree with you that that's a very big difference, but also more and more people go to university in Germany as well. So like that's kind of, I think, moving closer to how it is in the States, even though of course people at least don't have to pay these high tuition fees in Germany. University is generally free. You just have to pay a few fees. But I think the main difference here is that the gymnasium traditionally, as I said, it's so old, was really just to prepare people for university. And university at the time was really just this like academic thing. It wasn't something that would prepare you for a career or train you in a job. It was something that was very much just like philosophy and like just sciences, just more research and
to educate you as a human, not specifically for a job in the economy.
Exactly. It was more like for people who would then become professors or write books or do research for the rest of their life. It wasn't really you go to university and then after that you go into a normal job. So that's all changed, and I think German university programs also still haven't fully adapted to that new expectation that people have for these programs, because a lot of programs in the in Germany are very, very theoretical still, because they come from that tradition of really just being like basically a brain exercise for like 4 years. And the traditional German university system was also not a bachelor's and master's system. It was this very free system where you could study for like years and years if you wanted to, and you could visit all kinds of classes, and then you would get like a certificate at the end of every class that you would then submit to the university administration. Then at some point, if you felt like you wanted to take the final exams, you could, but like some people would literally study for 10 years and never really get a degree. It wasn't like that. The system was kind of more targeted towards, I don't know, like encouraging the
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Studying.
Like, it's not directed like you're studying for 4 years and you're going to be out, and it's not like a factory of producing workers for society, but it's like to educate the human mind.
Exactly.
Or so.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So more people in so it is shifting in Germany.
Yeah, for sure.
Towards more people going to university. Do you remember, like, growing up, was your friend group really isolated to the gymnasium, like, or were there, like, did that really separate who you interacted with socially?
That's a good question. I mean, I did grow up in like a nicer neighborhood with like, you know, like a more residential single family houses neighborhood in Germany, in Munich, which is already like, if you have a row house or a duplex, means that you have a little bit of money in Munich. Right. So I guess I grew up more in that bubble. So yeah, most of my friends did go to gymnasium, but I also had friends growing up that didn't go to gymnasium, and that wasn't like a problem or anything. I don't know if that answers your question, but so like,
no, for sure.
Generally, yes.
I'm really quite fascinated about it. Like, are young kids in Germany, when they get separated at that track and they get separated into the Hauptschule or the track for Hauptschule at a young age, are the kids sad and disappointed by that? Are they too young to even realize what's going on? And does it create tension like that? Do you remember?
I feel like I'm sure it does. I didn't have like a very close friend that was separated from me at that point. Well, a few friends from elementary school did end up going to Hauptschule, and the biggest thing at that age is, at least from my perspective, but I was the kid that went to gymnasium, so like maybe I was just too naive to see that they were actually disappointed. But like from my perspective, it was really just sad that we weren't able to go to school anymore together. That you were just being separated and you wouldn't see each other anymore. And then they would, of course, have new friends in 5th grade, and I would have new friends in 5th grade. But I'm sure that like for a kid at the age of 10, when their friends go to the higher school and you don't make it, I'm sure that's devastating for their self-esteem and everything and development. So it's just not really something that I guess my 10-year-old friends talked to me about at the time, or probably didn't even realize it themselves.
Yeah. And yeah, it is really, it's so fascinating. It's just so different.
Yeah.
I am wondering, I have heard then from German friends who have gone over to the States and studied, at least in like public high schools in the States, that public high school, which is most of the schools in the States, feels like a way worse education than the high school they got in the high school education they were getting in Germany. Like a friend went over to study at a high school in Michigan and was like, we were doing this 3 years ago. What is going on? Why are you guys so behind? I'm wondering, have you heard that? Have you gotten that sense? And then also, how was it for college, university, for you? Because you did an exchange program, right? And you had German university experience and American?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't really have the full American high school experience. I really only visited American high school for like one day during my very first time in the US. And even then, I do remember during that one day, it was the same grade as I was in Germany. What they did in like chemistry and math was like definitely way behind what we were doing. But then at the same time, it's like the high school is for all kids. Technically, I don't remember if my exchange partner that I followed around that day was in any AP classes. I didn't really understand any of that. I just know that I followed her throughout the classes. They had like a quizzes on that day too, where I was just very shocked by how easy those were and like how it was just multiple choice, and the kids didn't even stress about it and nothing. So I would personally agree with that statement, but of course you can't generalize it. There's also so many private schools in the US that are probably more challenging, and as I said, I think some of the AP classes are probably more challenging. I just don't remember if I was in one of them. But then with college, I can definitely confirm that too. I do have to say that I think it depends on the program you're into, but when I did my exchange semester, I was already pretty much done with my bachelor's in Germany, but since you're not really forced to get it done within a certain amount of time, I just basically extended it for one semester, and then after writing my bachelor's thesis, which is mandatory for bachelor's programs in Germany, I went to the US, and then I was in the electronic media division, which is probably much, much easier and more hands-on than going into business degree or law or like something like that. So it's probably not the best example. But what I do know from that, and what I also know from teaching undergrads in my German classes that I would teach at college, is that, the way that college works in the US is more like 8th grade in Germany. Like, they run after you, they throw the grades after you. If you're not performing well, they're gonna come up to like, hey, I was just wondering if maybe you want to give an extra presentation to improve your grade. In Germany, even in high school, but especially in university, if you're not performing well, that's your bad. They're just gonna kick you out. Nobody is trying to help you in that way, which there is a lot of good things about that in the American college system, but in a lot of cases I was very shocked by how I guess low the level was. And
you can say it, how easy it was.
And the thing is, I did this exchange semester, right, and I knew that it was going to be easier than in Germany, but a German bachelor's program is really more comparable to a American like grad school in the way that it is approached, and like you start with having all these wissenschaftliches Arbeiten seminars where you learn how to do like scholar research or like scientific research. I don't even know how to translate that properly, but you know how to properly use sources and cite. And you cannot submit anything where you don't cite properly. And then of course you write your bachelor's thesis that is often like 30 to 80 pages long or something like that. You have like these papers that you write every semester are at a higher level than the papers you would submit in most undergrad programs in the US. But anyway, so I came to the US and like none of my credits counted towards my program because I was pretty much already done in Germany. So what I did was I thought I was doing the bare minimum, and I was partying a lot during that semester. And I went to my classes because they were cool classes, because they were like video production and audio production and stuff that. So I liked those classes. And I went to them, but other than that, I didn't study or anything. And we had a couple tests, and I was shocked because, like, in this one audio production class, the midterm exam, which was like supposed to be a big thing, was literally a sheet of paper where there was like questions, but then the answers were all on the side, and you just had to match them up. Which I don't even think I had a quiz like that in elementary school, where you just had to match things up. And then on top of that, all these other kids that were also in every single class, and I didn't study for this. All you needed to do was be present, because he literally repeated the stuff for the exam every single class. And these kids paid the college tuition for this, right? And this was their major. And I got the best grade in that exam. And I was like, what is happening? Because I didn't study for this. I was literally just here. This is the easiest exam I've taken in my life. And like, everyone got the exams back, and I looked around and I was like, you don't even have to try hard. And I was just surprised by, like, I guess, just the level of things that not everyone got an A+ in this. I was shocked.
Yeah. That's also what's interesting. What you said is like people are paying for it and paying a lot of money for it. I mean, college in the U.S. is like, private colleges now are like $55,000 a year, $55,000 to $60,000. That's really interesting, because that is what I've heard about high school, and then now
I have one more story. I have one more story that I just it's just like I didn't really prepare this answer, so the things are just coming to me right now. But there was another class that was not a difficult class either. It was like the cinema of the 20th century or something that I just picked because I thought it sounded interesting. And we had to submit weekly homework, which, like, in German university you also don't have homework. That's just not a thing. You usually have like one presentation and like one paper every semester that then is all the grade, and then maybe a participation grade or something. But anyways, so we had to submit weekly homework. That was like a 1 to 2 page long paper, basically. That's what it was called. And coming from the German university system, I submitted that, and I didn't think that I put that much effort into it, but I cited things, because you can't submit anything in German university without citing things and writing properly. And I would get bonus points. Like, I would not only get the full points, but I would get bonus points for citing. And I was like, what is this place? What is happening?
Just for doing a bibliography.
And like, not, yeah, it was literally just two like sources that I cited. And that was very shocking to me. And then like I asked my American roommates at the time, I was like, hey, so like, how does this stuff usually work? Because I am very confused about this, because I only spent like 15 minutes on this and I'm getting bonus points.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh yeah, most kids just like write something and just submit something. And then I learned that like really a lot of students literally just write sentences that have typos in them and aren't even full sentences, don't even have like a proper formatting or anything like that, and just submit that, and that's basically enough. And that was just another thing where that shocked me a little bit.
The American education system, you heard it here.
Yeah, but of course I want to say it's not always like this, especially in other programs. And if you pick more difficult classes, I'm sure it's more challenging. And then grad school, I got my master's in the U.S. Grad school was more similar to the German university system. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's so interesting to talk about these. And like another thing that I was thinking about is, so in the States, basically the value of your college education is very dependent on kind of which school you go to and the prestige or brand of that school. Like obviously most people know about like the Ivy Leagues or Stanford or somewhere like that. So there are different levels of universities in the States that have different reputations. I'm wondering, in Germany, is it like that, or is it basically because are they all public, state-funded universities?
Most of them are, but there are private universities too. They're just usually not as big. The big ones are usually the public ones.
Okay. And is there a different level of like prestige or reputation amongst them, or are they all pretty like university is university and it's a certain level?
Kind of a little bit of both. There are rankings, and you definitely know that, okay, this is a very big university. A lot of people that are cited publicly as experts come from this university. So like, you know that a little bit. Like, for example, my university, LMU, Ludwig-Maximilians-Universität in Munich, is ranked really high, and so is the Technical University in Munich. But most people don't identify by that. Like, that doesn't really make such a big difference. And you don't really pick where you go to university by that. You usually don't even pick the university. You pick what you want to study, and then you see which universities offer that, and then maybe you pick the city, like the place you want to live in. But it's not the same as in the US, where people say, oh, I want to go to Yale, or I want to go to, I don't know, University of South Carolina or something like that, because they connect something with that specific university and maybe the sports team or something. That's not really how it is. Like, in general, there's just not as much identification with the university itself. Like, I would never if people asked me where I went to university, I would say in Munich. I wouldn't say,
like, you wouldn't wear a sweatshirt with the logo on there and walk around.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say the name, probably, because people aren't going to know that anyways.
And think about that compared to the States, where people really have their kind of identity wrapped up in their university. And you don't, I mean, very rarely, maybe on rare occasions, high school students graduating will pick a university based on like the track that they want to go to. Like, oh, this, Johns Hopkins has a great medical program and I want to go there to that. But more often than not, it's people like, I want to go to this college and I'll figure out what I'm going to study and be once I get there.
Which is cool, because you can switch around, right? Like, that's a great.
I did that. Feature. I switched my senior year, like 3 years into college, I switched my track, and you do have that freedom to kind of switch around. But I do. It's just so interesting. It's like, I have gear from my college, that I still wear today, and a lot of people have that, and I feel like that's quite rare, or doesn't really exist for Germans.
I have like one backpack from my university because everyone got that for free on the first day.
Yeah,
that's the only merch item that I have from a German university.
You guys don't have like well, obviously, because in America the sports teams are connected to the high schools and colleges, but like every college you have a school, a store basically that just has merch with all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I have lots of stuff from the University of Cincinnati, even though I only went there for like 3 semesters.
And do you have any part of you that identifies with that? That is like, I went to Cincinnati and I have, University of Cincinnati pride.
A little. I mean, not as much as
Yeah.
other people, I don't think, who actually went there for 4 years.
Right.
Because for me, it was always more like I'm like a visitor. But yeah, a little bit. I mean, when people say, like, when I meet someone and they went to that university, I know all the campus very well. I know all the bars. I know all the things about the university, right? Like all the insiders and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely something to connect over. Whereas in Germany, if someone went to the same university as me, unless they were in the same program as me, it really means nothing.
Yeah, you're not going to be like high-fiving in the street.
No.
And be like, oh, yeah.
No.
Which was more fun? Like experience as a whole.
Oh.
Would you say going to college in the States?
100% yes. That's why I did it in the first place. I wanted to have that
Really?
American college experience, and I got it.
Yeah.
I thought that it was not going to be as in the movies, because I thought, movies always exaggerate. It was exactly like in the movies. I went to my first party like the first weekend. There was beer pong everywhere, people doing keg stands, like fraternity guys that were super douchey, like all the cliches.
Douchey frat bros.
Yeah.
The American college experience. You got it. Yeah, that's so funny. It's like
I loved it though. I loved it.
It really is. It's really like, I guess in America it's more about, or a lot of times it's about like the experience as a whole for like a young person to grow intellectually with some easy tests and to grow socially and be living off on your own. But much different.
All right, guys, that is the video. Like I said at the beginning, please go over to Feely's channel and check out the other part of this collaboration where we talk about freedom. Interesting stuff. All right, guys, that is all for today. Thank you so much for watching my YouTube channel. I really appreciate it, and I will see you next time.